Hello, my soul family, and welcome back to my garden lounge for another episode of A Course in Miracles 365-day lessons. Today we are gathered here for episode 6, where we're going to continue from the teachings of last class or last gathering and have a little, just a little happy hour coffee here. I'm drinking an espresso to really help us focus on these teachings. I want to remind you that these teachings are very deep, very spiritual, very philosophical, and has the ability to change your mindset so that you may start living at your highest potential through your higher self, in love, in grace, and in peace. My name is Christy Ramirez. I am a soul coach, spiritual influencer, and motivational speaker, and I am a spiritual teacher. I have my School of Light online, which you can always watch exclusive content there at christyramirez.com/school. I teach year-round, including the foundation of this book, which is the first 31 teachings, which is gonna explain to you it all. And it's what's really transformative, it's magical, and it's gonna help you to really transform into a forgiving, open person. So you're going to be spiritually liberated as you start to read through this book and go through this journey with Jesus, because these are Jesus's personal teachings. When he was living on earth, he was a preacher and he preached a lot on love. He also preached on, God's law and his guidelines, but he was more about love, and he was a healer as well. So that's what this book is about, and there's a lot of mental health therapy as well. So as a psychologist, I really resonated with it. This book came into my life. I didn't look for it, it found me. And ever since I opened that book, it's just been a beautiful experience that I continue to go on and on again. So I've read this book already several times, and I've taught it several times. So by the time that we're here, 5 years later from me purchasing this book, or it was gifted to me, and opening the wrapping paper, because it had plastic paper over it, so it's not like I could even skim through it at the bookstore. It was sealed up as if there was sacred information in there. And I guess in faith, blind faith, just told my mom to purchase it for me. And because I was to choose one spiritual book that interested me, and that one just called my name. And a lot of it had to do with the beautiful cover as well. There's like a beautiful miracle star. The fact that it's called A Course in Miracles definitely caught my attention, and it's been a lifesaver. So let us get started with continuing our lessons for today, and just also have a notebook or something so that you can write your personal notes, or get a book yourself as well so that you can read along. I think these series are so fun. I always am so excited to show up to these series, particularly my favorite of the week, especially because as I come here, it's Thursday evening, and so it's a great start to my weekend because it's very, lighthearted. Although we're still learning deep spiritual themes and lessons, we can still, bring out the lighthearted in this nature. Alright, so let us open up the book. And today we are going to begin with lesson 35. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. That seems very simple, right? A very simple affirmation. But in the moment is what matters, right? Because we can pray this all that we want throughout our day, days prior, and then maybe you get challenged with something, or doubt comes in, and then your ego starts kind of battling with your higher self, and then that's where the real test comes in. So let us read about today's idea. It does not describe the way that you see yourself now, because if you are in a place of in peace, or you're feeling like something's off again, you read this book the first time because you're wanting to get better, right? You're wanting to be a better person. It doesn't mean that you need to, have terribly mental disturbance, but it can just be as simple as you just wanting to be more psychologically strong, very spiritually mature, and able to handle anything that life throws at you, because life will throw things at you. Everybody, no matter how good of a person they are, will have challenges, and that's not a bad thing, because it's what makes us grow and evolve on our soul journey. So you will believe that you are part of where you think you are. So this can be a mindset that you are at. If you believe that that's a part of who you are, and that mindset perhaps doesn't serve you, then that's when you get stuck, and that's when your growth comes to a halt, and that's where things need to be reevaluated, right? Starting with your mindset, your perspective, and your relationship with God as well, and the way that you see yourself. Do you see yourself as holy? Do you see that you're worthy of God's holiness, God's miracles? That's a big one, right? That is because you surround yourself with the environment that you want. Again, that's also where free will comes in. Maybe you're led by your ego, and maybe it's not the best decisions, the best group of people, and then, that's where everything starts. And so you wanted to protect the image of yourself that you have made. A lot of times also people don't grow out of their ego and that life that they've built, because they want to hold on to that image very strongly, and that's what's going to help hold them back. So the image is part of this environment. What you see while you believe you are in it is seen through the eyes of the image. Right? Because that becomes manifested. What you believe about yourself, what it is that you want others to believe about you and see you, that's eventually what's going to be seen through the eyes. So this is not vision. Images cannot see. The idea for today presents a very different view of yourself. By establishing your source, it establishes your identity, and then it describes you as you must really be in truth. Right? Your foundation establishes your identity, who you become. So if your source is rooted in God, then everything else will be of God, right? Including your identity. We will use a somewhat different kind of application for today's idea, because the emphasis for today is on the perceiver rather than on what he perceives. For each of the 3 5-minute practice periods today, begin by repeating today's idea to yourself, and then close your eyes and search your mind for the various kinds of descriptive terms in which you see yourself. Include all of the ego-based attributes which you ascribe to yourself, positive or negative, desirable or undesirable, grandiose or debased. So it is important to acknowledge and admit what qualities you see yourself as, how you describe yourself. All of them are equally unreal, because you do not look upon yourself through the eyes of holiness. So that's where it also begins. It's like the purification of your vision. That's step 1. The cleanliness of all past beliefs about self must be erased, must be abolished, and must be released, so that you can have a blank slate. So in the earlier part of the mind searching period, you will probably emphasize what you consider to be the more negative aspects of your perception of yourself. Toward the latter part of the exercise period, however, more self-inflating descriptive terms may well cross your mind. So try to recognize that the direction of your fantasies about yourself does not matter. Illusions have no direction in reality. They are merely not true, right? These illusions that are not based on truth or reality, if you let that guide you, then you're going to be led to a place that is unreal, is very out of alignment with your true self, and it's not going to bring joy. It's not going to bring fulfillment. If only, it's going to take you farther away from your inner self and your spiritual relationship with God. So don't give in to these illusions. Remember, illusions are of the ego. That's chapter 2 from this book. So definitely, if you want to know more about this particular theme, illusion as separation, the illusion of separation, that's chapter 2. Go to my School of Light at christoramirez.com/school. So a suitable unselected list for applying the idea for today might be as follows. I see myself as imposed on. I see myself as depressed. I see myself as failing. I see myself as endangered. I see myself as helpless. I see myself as victorious. I see myself as losing out. I see myself as charitable, and I see myself as virtuous. So obviously we can see that these emotions, these descriptions about self start to become more positive, and they were once victim-based and very negative, and then that's what you kind of manifest. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you need to change the way that you really see yourself genuinely, because that will be reflected outside, and then ironically people will treat you that way. So if you find yourself in a pattern, in a cycle of you attracting situations that are not treating you right or are not serving you, then you have to look within, because everything is a projection, a mirror. It's not enough to blame people, because that does nothing for not only them, but not even for yourself. And it takes you farther away from what you're trying to achieve, which is to heal and to come up to a higher place. So you should not think of these terms in an abstract way. They will occur to you as various situations, personalities, and events in which you figure across your mind. Pick up any specific situation that occurs to you, identify the descriptive term or terms which you feel are applicable to your reactions to that situation, and then use them in applying today's idea. After you have named each one, add, "But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy." So that's almost like a little remedy for you to start to get closer to God and start to really believe that you are holy and you're worthy of God's love. During the longer exercise periods, there will probably be intervals in which nothing specific occurs to you. Do not strain to think up specific things to fill the interval, but merely relax and repeat today's idea slowly until something occurs to you. Although nothing that does occur should be omitted from the exercises, nothing should be dug out with effort. Neither force nor discrimination should be used. As often as possible during the day, pick up a specific attribute or attributes that you are ascribing to yourself at the time and apply the idea for today to them, adding the idea to each of them in the form stated above. If nothing particular occurs to you, merely repeat the idea to yourself with closed eyes. So remember, "But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy." All right, and now as we move on to lesson 36, my holiness envelops everything I see. So now we are accepting that we are holy. We are receiving God's blessing of holiness. And now we realize that our holiness envelops everything that we see. So if we see ourselves as holy, then we're going to see the holiness in things that are holy, and then also what's not holy to stay away from, right? So today's idea extends the idea from yesterday, from the perceiver to the perceived. You are holy because your mind is part of God's. And because you are holy, your sight must be holy as well. And this is what's called spiritual vision. Sinless means without sin. You cannot be without sin a little. You are either sinless or not. And if your mind is part of God's, then you must be sinless, or a part of His mind would be sinful. Your sight is related to His holiness, not to your ego, and therefore not to your body. So 4 3 to 5 minute practice periods are required for today. Try to distribute them fairly evenly and make the shorter applications frequently to protect your protection throughout the day. The longer practice periods should take this form. Because by you believing that you are holy, it is like forming it's forming an aura of protection around you. Because if you see yourself as holy, when you are holy, you're untouchable by anything outside you, right? God is the only one that can support you, that can help you, and that's it. So close your eyes and repeat the idea for today several times slowly. Then open your eyes and look quite slowly about you. See your surroundings, observe your surroundings, applying the idea specifically to whatever you note in your casual survey. Say, for example, my holiness envelops that rug. My holiness envelops that wall. My holiness envelops these fingers. My holiness envelops that chair. My holiness envelops that body. And my holiness envelops this pen. Several times during these practice periods, close your eyes and repeat the idea to yourself. Then open your eyes and continue as before. For the shorter exercise periods, close your eyes and repeat the idea. Look about you as you repeat it again and conclude with one more repetition with your eyes closed. All applications should, of course, be made quite slowly, as effortlessly and unhurriedly as possible. All right, my soul family, let's continue with lesson 37 for today. My holiness blesses the world. So now we realize and we acknowledge that this holiness that is us can be very influential and very useful for the world. It can bless the world, it can heal the world, it can light up the world. And so that's why holiness is very important. But it can only be upon those who are pure. So this idea contains the first glimmerings of your true function in the world or why you're here. And that's how we are born as well. As pure, innocent children, babies, you're 100% holy. Your purpose is to see the world through your own holiness. Thus are you and the world blessed together. No one loses, nothing is taken away from anyone, and everyone gains through your holy vision. It signifies the end of sacrifice because it offers everyone his full due, and he is entitled to everything because it is his birthright as a son of God. There is no other way in which the idea of sacrifice can be removed from the world's thinking. Any other way of seeing will inevitably demand payment of someone or something, and then as a result the perceiver will lose, nor will he have an idea of why he is losing. Yet is his wholeness restored to his awareness through your vision, right? Your holiness blesses him by asking nothing of him. Those who see themselves as whole make no demands. So it completes you, because holiness, not only in the sense of being holy, but also in the sense of being whole and complete, means that you need nothing else. So when you're in that position, you have more freedom to focus on helping others. And there is no idea of sacrifice, right? So your holiness is the salvation of the world. It lets you teach the world that it is one with you, not by preaching it, not by telling it anything, but merely by your quiet recognition that in your holiness are all things blessed along with you. So today's 4 longer practice periods, each to involve 3 to 5 minutes of practice, begins with the repetition of the idea for today, followed by a minute or so of looking about you as you apply the idea to whatever you see. So there's 3 affirmations here. It says, my holiness blesses this chair. My holiness blesses that window. My holiness blesses this body. Right? You can walk into a room and your holiness is felt. Your holy presence is seen. And so our holiness has a lot of potential. So then close your eyes and apply the idea to any person who occurs to you, using his name and saying, my holiness blesses you, blank. So you can use it to bless people. And that does work. You may continue the practice period with your eyes closed, and you may open your eyes again and apply the idea for today to your outer world if you so desire. You may alternate between applying the idea to what you see around you and to those who are in your thoughts. Or you may use any combination of these two phases of application, which you prefer. So the practice period should conclude with a repetition of the idea with your eyes closed and another following immediately with your eyes open. The shorter exercises consist of repeating the idea as often as you can. It is particularly helpful to apply it silently to anyone that you meet, using his name as you do so. It is essential to use the idea if anyone seems to cause an adverse reaction in you. Offer him the blessing of your holiness immediately, that you may learn to keep it at your own awareness. Alright, so now we are started on lesson 38. This is a powerful one. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. That gives us almost like a superpower. That gives us confidence. That gives us this inner strength that we need to overcome anything that we're facing. So let us learn about this. Your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. So this means that this holiness is capable of bringing miracles into your life. Now, of course, we don't create the miracles, but we can manifest them. We can receive them by God, right? And it begins by us being pure and holy. So it is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power, because it establishes you as a son of God, at one with the mind of his creator, because you're in alignment with that frequency, with that energy of God. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. And through your holiness, the power of God is made available. Right? Now God can work through you as well, or he can work for you, like he can bless you with something. And there is nothing the power of God cannot do. So, of course, we're always also, working for God as well. This is being of service, is how we contribute back to God. Nothing is still free, right? So, your holiness then can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. Now, I want to clarify that there can be blessings that are free. If you're just a really good person, if you're a pure soul and God sees this, he will spontaneously bless you just because. So it's not like we have to be a sacrifice as well. It's not to be confused with being of service and then sacrificing yourself. It's doing what you can with your body, your limits, and being as much of a good service as you can, genuinely giving the best of you and the most that you can, and of course always still being a good person, right? So it's like a lot that goes into this. And it can be very simple. It's just about kind of knowing this, right? So your holiness then can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. That's part of the miracle there. It can do so in connection with yourself and with anyone else. Because in the moment it might seem like your world's about to end, right? When you're in that deep, deep sorrow, in that deep pain as well, you feel like there's no way out. And that's a very dark place that one can find themselves. But there is a way out. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And that is a miracle. If you think a miracle has to be something like extraordinary, a miracle can be as simple as that. And that's the gift of God. So it is equal in its power to help anyone, but because it is equal in its power to save anyone. Wow. If you are holy, so is everything God created. Because you are a creation of God, right? So you are holy because all things that he created are holy. And all things that he created are holy because you are. So in today's exercises, we will apply the power of your holiness to all problems, difficulties, or suffering in any form that you happen to think of in yourself or someone else. And we will make no distinctions because there are no distinctions. So in the 4 longer practice periods, each preferably to last a full 5 minutes, repeat the idea for today, close your eyes, and then search your mind for any sense of loss or unhappiness of any kind as you see it. Try to make as little distinction as possible between a situation that is difficult for you and one that is difficult for someone else. Identify the situation specifically and also the name of the person concerned. Use this form in applying the idea for today. In the situation involving blank, in which I see myself, there is nothing that my holiness cannot do. In the situation involving blank, in which blank sees himself, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. So, us seeing ourselves as holy is also an empowerment. It empowers us to think very highly of ourselves and set our standards high. So from time to time, you will want to vary this procedure and add some relevant thoughts of your own. You might like, for example, to include thoughts such as, there is nothing my holiness cannot do because the power of God lies in it. How powerful is that? And if you remember this particular verse and you're able to recite it to yourself during a moment of stress, that's going to be a game changer for your mental health, for your well-being. So I challenge you to that. Introduce whatever variations appeal to you, but keep the exercises focused on the theme, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. The purpose of today's exercises is to begin to instill in you a sense that you have dominion over all things because of what you are. In the frequent shorter applications, apply the idea in its original form unless a specific problem concerning you or someone else arises or comes to mind. In that event, use the more specific form of application. So those are just guidelines for how to kind of apply these and practice these. And for today's last lesson, because of the relevance of the theme, we are going to go over lesson 39. My holiness is my salvation. So this is part of God's plan for salvation, which is, I think is chapter 5. It's one of the first chapters in A Course in Miracles. So again, the foundation of this book. There's one that's the name of the chapter. But all of these are so imperative for you to really understand and be able to even apply these lessons at a more profundity level and at a more also permanent level. So definitely recommend, go to my School of Light, christyramirez.com/school. All right, so if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? Right? If you're stuck in a place of your ego bringing fear, disturbing your peace, that's not a holy or heavenly way of living. That's you living a purgatory on earth in a way, right? Or even a hell on earth, and that's not, what your soul is needing. You're needing to get out of that so that you may experience heaven on earth. So like the text for which this workbook was written, the ideas which are used for the exercises are very simple, very clear, and totally unambiguous. We're not concerned with intellectual feats nor logical toys. We are dealing only in the very obvious, which has been overlooked in the clouds of complexity in which you think. So if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? This is not difficult, surely. The hesitation you may feel in answering is not due to the ambiguity of the question. It's a very easy question. But do you believe that guilt is hell? Right? Because if you were to believe that, I don't think that you would give in too much to your guilt or to your shame, to your doubt about yourself, your insecurities, because you don't want to be associated with that, right? But a lot of the times people don't think that guilt is hell and that it's something that is just not supposed to be felt in a way. Like, we're not supposed to be in that mindset. That's not our pure state. That's a distortion along the way. And so, in as simply as your mindset. So if you did, you would see at once how direct and simple the text is, And you will not even need a workbook at all. No one needs practice to gain what is already his. So we have already said that your holiness is the salvation of the world. What about your own salvation? You cannot give what you do not have. So a savior must be saved. How else can he teach salvation? Today's exercises will apply to you alone, recognizing that your salvation is crucial to the salvation of the world. And as you apply the exercises to your own world, the whole world stands to benefit, right? By you healing yourself, that's the beginning stages and the first step for you to be able to heal the world. Your holiness is the answer to every question that was ever asked, is being asked now, or will be asked in the future. Your holiness means the end of guilt and therefore the end of hell. Your holiness is the salvation of the world and your own. How could you, to whom your holiness belongs, be excluded from it? If you acknowledge the power of this holiness, why would you not want to receive this, right? So God does not know unholiness because that's not of God. So remember, God, when he created Adam and Eve, they were in the Garden of Eden, which basically was heaven on earth. So God doesn't know anything that's not that. And so that's where we come from. Can it be that he does not know his son? So a full 5 minutes, because his son was manifested on earth, so he was born on earth, so he did experience suffering and the unholiness of others against him, right? But God never, of course, is going to experience that because, of course, he's in the heavens. So that's why they say this right here. So a full 5 minutes are urged for the 4 longer practice periods for today. Longer and more frequent practice sessions are encouraged. If you want to exceed the minimum requirements, more rather than longer sessions are recommended, although both are encouraged. Begin the practice periods as usual by repeating today's idea to yourself. And then with closed eyes, search out your unloving thoughts in whatever form they appear. Whether that be uneasiness, something's making you uncomfortable, or depression, anger, fear, worry, attack, insecurity, and so on. Anything of that that's taken away from your peace needs to be reevaluated and needs to be let go. Because those are unloving thoughts. And that means that you're not in alignment with the love of your higher self, where all the healing begins. So, and forgiveness is a first step towards that direction. So specific situations, events, or personalities that you associate with unloving thoughts of any kind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. It is imperative for your own salvation that you see them differently. And it is your blessing on them that will save you and give you vision. And remember, this is the spiritual vision that we're speaking of. That's how powerful this blessing is. A blessing of holiness is something that's the only thing that you want from God, right? So slowly, without conscious selection and without undue emphasis on any one in particular, search your mind for every thought that stands between you and your salvation, and then apply the idea for today to each one of them in this way. My unloving thoughts about blank are keeping me in hell. My holiness is my salvation. That's therapy right there, right? And that's easy. That's like an easy way of like fast intervention if you're dealing with any mental health disturbance. Because if you really get down to the root of what it is that you're experiencing, you're going to want to get out of that. So you may find these sessions easier if you intersperse the applications with several short periods during which you merely repeat today's idea to yourself slowly a few times, right? It's not about like overdoing it, but just a couple minutes a day, several times a day, so that it kind of becomes ingrained. You may also find it helpful to include a few short intervals in which you just relax and do not seem to be thinking of anything. You're just like in the moment, you're just there. And that's therapeutic too, right? So sustained concentration is very difficult at first. It will become much easier as your mind becomes more disciplined and less distractible. So meanwhile, you should feel free to introduce variety into your practice periods in whatever form appeals to you. Do not, however, change the idea itself in varying the method of applying it. However you elect to use it, the idea should be stated so that its meaning remains that your holiness is your salvation. End each practice period by repeating the idea in its original form once more and adding, so if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? What emotion is equivalent to heaven? Happiness, joy, peace, right? Those are just a few. So in the shorter applications, which should be made some 3 or 4 times an hour and more if possible, you may ask yourself this question, repeat today's idea, or preferably both, and if temptations arise, a particularly helpful form of the idea is, my holiness is my salvation from this. What a powerful way of ending today's gathering. Thank you all for being here. I am so grateful, and we're going to continue more next time. And I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Namaste.